Captain Mason Briggs never thought his most dangerous mission would begin with a crash. One moment he was piloting the Resolute, scouting a strange energy signal near Sector 17Z. The next, a sudden storm of electromagnetic interference sent his ship spiraling down onto a jungle-covered moon. He hit the ground hard. Metal screamed. Sparks flew. And then silence. Mason woke up groggy, bleeding slightly from a cut on his forehead. His cockpit was wrecked. The screen showed static, and the controls were dead. His ship was beyond repair. As a trained Earth Fleet officer, Mason did what he always did in trouble: stay calm. He grabbed his emergency pack, loaded a stun pistol, and climbed out into the alien world. The jungle was alive with strange sounds: deep humming, bird-like screeches, and the rustling of giant leaves. The air was thick and warm. The sky above was orange, with two small moons floating side by side. He walked for an hour, marking his path and scanning for signals. Suddenly, the trees trembled. A low rumble filled the air. Out of the mist stepped a figure. At first, Mason thought it was a machine. Shiny black armor, glowing blue lines, and a crown-like helmet. But then she spoke. Her voice echoed directly in his mind. "Your objections are useless, human. You will be my mate." Mason froze. What? The figure removed her helmet. Beneath it was a tall alien woman with dark violet skin, sharp silver eyes, and flowing black hair that moved like liquid. Her presence was powerful. She stood nearly 10 feet tall and looked at Mason like he was already hers. "I am Queen Xerintha of the Varnaxi Empire," she said aloud this time, her voice deep and commanding. "Your arrival has fulfilled the prophecy. You are compatible. You are strong. You are mine." Mason raised his stun pistol. "Lady, I don't know what kind of weird royal dating customs you have, but I'm not interested." The queen raised an eyebrow, then laughed. It wasn't cruel, more amused. With a wave of her hand, Mason felt his body stiffen. He couldn't move. Some kind of energy field was holding him in place. "I admire your spirit," she said, stepping closer. "But this is not a request." With another gesture, her guards appeared from the jungle. 7 tall warriors in armor like hers, all watching him in silence. Before Mason could protest again, he felt a needle-like sting at his neck. His vision blurred. The last thing he saw was the queen's face as she leaned down and whispered, "Sleep now, human. Your trials begin soon." Then everything went black. Mason opened his eyes slowly. The ceiling above him sparkled like stars, but it wasn't the sky. It was smooth crystal, glowing with soft light. He sat up quickly and looked around. He was lying on a large bed in a room that looked like a mix between a palace and a spaceship. The walls were curved and golden. Strange plants glowed in corners. The air smelled like flowers, and soft music played from nowhere. Mason touched his neck where he had been stung. "Still alive," he muttered. "That's something." The door slid open with a soft hiss. In came Queen Xerintha, wearing a long black and silver robe. Her crown now floated slightly above her head, like it was made of energy. 2 guards followed behind her, but stayed at the door. Mason stood up. "You drugged me, kidnapped me, and now you put me in a luxury hotel room." Xerintha gave a calm smile. "This is a royal chamber. Only my chosen mate may stay here." Mason crossed his arms. "Yeah, about that. I'm not your mate." The queen stepped closer. "You will be. Earth humans are biologically compatible with Varnaxi. Our race is dying. I have searched across galaxies. You are the strongest and most suitable match." "Great, so I'm a walking sperm donor," Mason said, annoyed. She tilted her head. "On your world, courtship involves flowers, yes, and dinners." "Sometimes," Mason replied cautiously. Xerintha nodded. "Then consider this your royal invitation." He gave a half laugh. "Look, Queenie, I get that you're in a tight spot. But I don't do forced relationships, especially with alien royalty. The queen did not look angry. In fact, she looked amused again. Very well. Varnaxi law allows you a chance to refuse. But first, you must complete the 3 trials of worth. Mason narrowed his eyes. Trials. She turned and walked toward the door. 3 tasks. Complete them, and if you still refuse me, you will be free to leave. Fail. And, well, you won't need to worry about marriage. Let me guess, Mason said. These trials are dangerous. Kiritha smiled without turning around. Deadly. As she left, 2 guards stepped inside. One handed Mason a long black robe with a strange symbol on the chest. The other handed him a clear tablet showing a countdown. 20 hours until trial 1. Mason stared at it and sighed. Well, this just keeps getting better. He sat down on the edge of the bed, trying to think. No weapons, no backup, no way to contact Earth. But if there was one thing humans were good at, it was surviving the impossible. Mason looked up, determination in his eyes. All right, Your Majesty, let's play. The next morning, Mason was led through a long hallway by 2 silent guards. He wore the black robe the queen had given him. It was heavy and warm, like it had its own heat. They stopped at a large metal door with strange glowing symbols. One guard placed his hand on a scanner, and the door slowly opened with a loud hiss. Inside was a huge arena. Mason stepped in and looked around. The arena was built of stone and metal. Thousands of Varnaxi citizens sat in high stands, cheering and clapping. The sky above was open, and strange flying drones circled overhead, broadcasting the event across the empire. Queen Exarintha sat on a high throne, watching him calmly. Her crown glowed brighter than ever. A voice echoed across the arena in an alien language, then switched to English. Trial 1 begins now. Survive the beast of Roltar. Mason raised an eyebrow. Beast? That's not very specific. Suddenly, the floor trembled. From a massive gate on the other side, something growled. Then it appeared. The beast of Roltar was a giant creature, almost the size of a small house. Its body was covered in thick red scales. It had 6 legs, a long tail, and 2 glowing yellow eyes. Its mouth opened wide, showing rows of sharp teeth. It roared, and the sound shook Mason's bones. He looked around quickly. No weapons, no shield, just a smooth arena floor and one angry monster. Great, he muttered. Nothing like a little morning cardio. The beast charged. Mason sprinted to the side, just barely dodging its jaws. The creature skidded, turned, and charged again. Mason rolled, scrambled to his feet, and ran behind a pillar. He needed a plan, and fast. Then he saw it, small glowing panels in the floor, some kind of power grid. He sprinted toward one and jumped just as the beast followed him. He stomped hard on the panel, and to his surprise, a bolt of energy shot upward, hitting the beast in the face. The creature howled and backed away. Mason grinned. Okay, let's play tag, with lasers. He ran again, leading the beast across the arena, stepping on panel after panel. Each one triggered an energy trap. Sparks flew. The beast got angrier, but slower. Smoke rose from its wounds. Finally, the beast staggered and collapsed with a loud crash. The crowd went silent for a moment, then erupted in cheers. Mason stood in the middle of the arena, chest heaving, arms raised. He looked up at Queen Exarintha, who was smiling. She raised a hand, and her voice echoed through the arena. You survive. Trial 1 is complete. Mason pointed up at her. 1 down, 2 to go. Still not meriting you. The queen laughed. We shall see, human. Mason had barely rested when the second trial was announced. This time, there was no arena, no crowd, and no beast. Instead, he was taken to a quiet, dark room deep inside the palace. The walls were made of black stone, and glowing blue lines pulsed like slow heartbeats. Queen Exarintha stood waiting. She looked serious. "Welcome to the mind maze," she said. "This trial is not of strength, but of the mind. You will enter a dream world created by our ancient technology. If you solve the maze, you win. If you lose, your mind may never return." Mason frowned. "So, a brain trap." The Queen gave a small nod. "Only 1 in 10 survive. You may die inside without a single wound." 2 attendants placed a silver crown-like device on his head. It clicked into place. "Ready?" she asked. Mason gave a smirk. "I was born ready." The world blinked. Suddenly, Mason was no longer in the palace. He stood in a strange version of his childhood home. But something was wrong. The sky outside the window was green, and shadows moved without making sound. He stepped outside. The road stretched forever, twisting and shifting. Buildings appeared, disappeared, and sometimes floated. A voice whispered, "Find the center, or be lost forever." Mason started walking. The maze changed around him. Every door he opened led to a different memory, some happy, like his graduation, and others dark, like a failed mission where he lost a teammate. He had to push through each room, not letting the emotions control him. In one room, he saw Queen Cerintha smiling beside him. In another, he was alone in a dark cell, screaming. He realized the maze was trying to trick him, to make him stop moving, give in to fear or desire. But Mason was a fighter. He began marking the doors, leaving scratches so he wouldn't repeat paths. When a false version of his mother begged him to stay and rest, he shook his head and kept walking. Hours passed, or maybe days. Time didn't work right in the maze. Finally, he reached a glowing white room. In the center stood a mirror. He approached carefully and looked inside. It didn't show his reflection. It showed a version of him dressed in Varnaxi armor, sitting beside Queen Cerintha on a throne. The reflection spoke. "You belong here. With her, it is easier to say yes." Mason smiled calmly. "Maybe. But I don't do easy. I do what's right." He reached forward and punched the mirror. It shattered like glass. Light exploded around him. Mason woke up gasping. The silver crown was gone. He was lying on the floor of the dark chamber. Queen Cerintha stood over him, clearly impressed. "You did it," she said quietly. "You beat the mind maze." Mason stood slowly. "That's 2. He looked her in the eye. "1 more to go, Your Majesty. Then we're done." Mason stood in the training arena, once again surrounded by thousands of Varnaxi citizens. The final trial had arrived. Unlike the first trial with the beast, or the second inside his mind, this one was clear and direct. A fight. Queen Cerintha's voice echoed across the arena. Trial 3. The duel. Prove your strength against our greatest warrior. Survive, and you are free. A gate opened. Heavy footsteps shook the ground. Out came a massive Varnaxi male, wearing black battle armor with glowing red marks. He held a long double-bladed spear and wore a helmet shaped like a skull. His name was General Cortal, the Queen's champion and personal guard. He had never lost a duel. Mason took a deep breath. He was given a light armor suit and a short energy blade. No gun, no backup. Just him. As the crowd roared, Cortal pointed his spear and growled, "You are no warrior. You are soft. A pet." Mason raised his blade. "Let's find out." The duel began. Cortal charged fast, surprisingly fast for his size. His spear swung in wide arcs, cutting the air with a loud hum. Mason ducked, rolled, and barely missed the first strike. The crowd gasped. Mason jumped to his feet and slashed with his energy blade, but it bounced off Cortal's armor. The giant laughed and knocked Mason backward with a punch. Pain exploded in Mason's ribs. He hit the ground hard. "You call this a trial?" Mason muttered. "Feels more like a punishment." He rolled away just in time as the spear stabbed into the ground where his head had been. Mason knew brute force wouldn't win. He needed speed and brains. He baited Kortal into chasing him around the arena. The giant grew tired of swinging and missing. That's when Mason struck, quick and low, slashing at the back of Kortal's knee joint. Sparks flew. The warrior roared in pain. Now limping, Kortal grew angry and reckless. Mason dodged one heavy blow, then jumped onto the giant's back. Using his energy blade, he struck under the armor at the neck joint. With a flash, the blade hit something vital. Kortal stumbled forward, dropped his weapon, and fell to his knees. Mason stood behind him, panting, bruised, but alive. The arena was silent. Queen Xyrantha slowly stood from her throne. Her voice rang out like thunder. The trials are complete. The human has passed. The crowd exploded into cheers. Mason walked to the center, wiping sweat from his face. He looked up at the queen. Now that I've done your little game show, you'll let me go. Xyrantha stared at him. Her expression was unreadable. She slowly descended from her throne and approached him. You have proven strength, mind, and courage, she said softly. You have earned your freedom. Mason raised an eyebrow. That's it. She nodded. You are free, but you are also the most interesting creature I have ever met. Mason smirked. Trust me, I hear that a lot. Mason sat on a balcony high above the city, watching the twin moons rise over the alien skyline. Varnaxi towers glowed like crystals. Flying ships zipped through the air in perfect patterns. It was peaceful, almost too peaceful. He sipped a strange blue drink, half expecting it to explode. To his surprise, it tasted like mango. Footsteps approached. Queen Xyrantha walked toward him, wearing a softer robe than usual. No armor, no crown, just her. I expected you to leave by now, she said. Mason didn't look at her, still deciding. You won your freedom. The palace shuttle is ready. It can take you back to your ship, or to Earth. He glanced at her. And if I stay? She looked at him carefully. Then you become my chosen mate. Not by force, by choice. He raised an eyebrow. You've really changed your tone. Xyrantha sighed and leaned on the balcony beside him. I had to test you. My people need strength. But after watching you, I see now, humans have more than just strength. You have fire, spirit, and stubbornness. Mason smiled. You left out charm. She chuckled. Yes, that too. They stood in silence for a moment, the cool wind brushing past. Xyrantha looked at him again. I won't lie, Mason. I still want you. Not just for my people, but for me. You are different. You challenge me. No one dares to do that here. He looked at her seriously. I don't belong here, Xyrantha. I'm not a king. I'm a pilot who crash-landed on your moon. She didn't argue. Instead, she pulled out a small crystal device and handed it to him. This holds coordinates. If you leave now and ever decide to return, follow them. The palace doors will open for you. He held the crystal, surprised. You're giving me a way back. I am giving you a choice, she said. That's more than most rulers offer. Mason studied her for a moment. The powerful alien queen, once cold and commanding, was now calm and strangely human. He stood up. I'll think about it. She nodded. That's all I ask. As he turned to leave, she called out, one more thing. He stopped. Xyrantha stepped close, her voice softer than ever. If you do return, I hope it's not just for duty. Mason looked into her silver eyes, then smiled. We'll see. Then he walked away, the crystal warm in his hand, his thoughts full of questions, and one very unexpected feeling. Mason stood in the launch bay, staring at the sleek shuttle that would take him back to his crashed ship, or even to Earth. The Varnaxi engineers had fixed it, fully fueled, ready to go. One guard handed him a small pack with supplies, rations, and a communicator. The Queen gave orders. You may leave whenever you wish. No one will stop you. Mason looked at the control pad. One touch and the ship would rise. But still, he didn't move. He thought about everything that had happened. The trials, the alien queen, the people, the strange world, the honor, the danger, the quiet beauty of the night sky over Varnax. Most of all, he thought about Xarintha. She was powerful, dangerous, and strange, but also brave, wise, and more human than he ever expected. He sighed. "I should go," he muttered. "I have a life, a crew, a mission." But the crystal she gave him still rested in his jacket pocket, glowing faintly. Mason walked up the ramp and stepped into the pilot's seat. The ship's systems came online. Screens lit up. Engines hummed. His hands hovered over the controls. Suddenly, a memory flashed in his mind. Xarintha, standing beside him after the third trial, her voice soft. "If you ever return, I hope it's not just for duty." He closed his eyes. Something inside him twisted. He stood up, left the ship, and walked away from the ramp. The guard raised an eyebrow. "You are not leaving." Mason smirked. "Not yet." He walked out of the launch bay and into the cool night. His steps felt lighter, as if some heavy weight had been removed from his chest. Later that evening, Mason found himself walking into the royal gardens. The glowing plants lit the path with soft colors, blue, green, and gold. He followed the trail until he saw her. Queen Xarintha was sitting on a stone bench near a quiet fountain. She turned when she saw him, clearly surprised. "You didn't leave." "No," Mason said. "Not yet." Her silver eyes searched his face. "Why?" He sat beside her. "I told myself it was just curiosity, or unfinished business. But truth is, I didn't feel like a prisoner anymore. I felt like I had something worth staying for." Xarintha said nothing at first. Then she smiled, softly. "You always had a choice, Mason. That's why you were different." He looked at her. "Still think I'd make a good mate?" She raised an eyebrow. "You beat my strongest warrior, broke my mind maze, and walked away from freedom." "Yes, I still think so." He chuckled. "Then maybe we can try things the human way this time." Her smile grew. "Flowers and dinner." Mason grinned. "I'll teach you." The next evening, the palace gardens were lit with soft lanterns. Instead of guards and glowing thrones, there was a simple table set under a silver-leafed tree. 2 chairs, 2 plates, one strange-looking candle that hummed. Mason had spent the whole day teaching the palace kitchen staff how to make something close to a real human dinner. The alien cooks had been confused when he said no glowing sauce and no live worms, but they'd done their best. Now, Queen Xarintha walked into the garden, wearing a smooth dress made from silver fabric that shimmered with every step. It wasn't her usual battle armor. She looked calm, curious. "You planned this?" she asked. Mason stood up, pulled her chair out like a gentleman, and grinned. "Welcome to your first human date." She raised an eyebrow and sat. "Is this normal?" "Normal-ish," he said. "Usually there's more awkward talking and nervous laughs." She leaned closer. "And after the meal, is there a battle or challenge?" He laughed. "Not unless you ask very nicely." The food arrived, 2 plates with something that looked like meat and vegetables. It wasn't exactly Earth style, but close enough. They ate slowly. Mason told her stories of Earth, cities full of lights, the smell of rain, kids playing games in dirty streets. He spoke of his team, his missions, and how he had always felt like an outsider. Until now. Xarintha listened carefully. She asked smart questions and even laughed once when he described Earth's obsession with cats. "You humans are strange," she said. He smirked. "You're not so normal yourself, Your Majesty." She looked down for a moment. "You can call me Xarintha when it's just us." He nodded. "Deal." The wind blew gently, and for a moment, there was peace. No trials, no guards, no pressure. Then Cerintha said, "You know, some of my council still think I should force you to bond with me, for the sake of our people." Mason raised an eyebrow, still planning to chain me up. She shook her head. "No, I want you to choose me, not because you have to, because you want to." He leaned back and looked at her seriously. "I don't belong here, Cerintha. I'm not royal. I'm not from this world." She didn't argue. "But you care. You fought with honor. You understand me. Isn't that what matters?" He paused. She was right. Somehow, against all odds, he did understand her. "I came here as a prisoner," he said. "Now I feel like I've been invited into something bigger." Cerintha smiled gently. "Then stay. Not as my mate yet. Just as you." Mason looked at the night sky, then back at her. "For now," he said, "I'm staying." And for the first time since crashing on this alien world, he didn't feel lost. He felt like he was exactly where he was meant to be. Life in the palace grew strange but peaceful for Mason. Days were filled with learning Varnaxi culture, sharing stories with Cerintha, and helping in small ways around the city. It was almost like a new home. But peace never lasts long. One evening, as Mason and Cerintha walked along the palace walls, a sharp alarm sounded. Red lights flashed across the city. The Queen's guards rushed to their posts. Mason grabbed a weapon, a pulse rifle he hadn't used in weeks. "What's happening?" he asked. Cerintha's face grew serious. An attack, not from outside the empire, but from within. A rebellion. Mason's heart pounded. Rebels. Yes, some in the council did not like my decision to spare you and others like you. They see you as a threat. The Queen's usual calm voice was now filled with worry. Suddenly, the palace shook. Distant explosions echoed through the night. "Come," Cerintha said. "We must protect the people." They hurried to the war room, a large chamber filled with glowing maps and screens showing enemy movements. The rebels had seized a nearby city and were moving fast toward the capital. Mason studied the maps. "We need a plan to stop them before they reach here." Cerintha nodded. "You've fought humans before. What do you suggest?" He took a deep breath. "We use surprise. Hit them where they don't expect. Cut off their supply lines. Hit fast and hard." She smiled, the fire of a warrior returning. "Then we fight together." The next hours were chaos. Mason led a small team of Varnaxi soldiers on a stealth mission to destroy enemy supplies. His knowledge of guerrilla tactics helped them move unseen through the dark forests. They set explosives, cut communications, and avoided patrols. Back at the palace, Cerintha commanded the defense. She moved like a shadow, calm and deadly, inspiring her soldiers. After a tense night, the rebels' advance slowed and finally stopped. The city was safe, for now. Exhausted, Mason returned to the palace gardens, where Cerintha waited. She looked at him with respect. "You fought well." He smiled tiredly. "I couldn't have done it without you." They stood close. The quiet after the storm filled the air. Mason realized then that this fight was more than just survival. It was about trust, loyalty, and the future of two very different worlds. Cerintha reached out and took his hand. "Together, we are stronger." Mason squeezed her hand back. "Together." For the first time, the impossible felt possible. The dawn broke over Varnax like a promise. The city, once shaken by rebellion, now stood stronger. Its towers sparkled in the sunlight, and the air felt alive with hope. Mason and Queen Cerintha stood side by side on the palace balcony, looking out at their world, a world they had fought to protect together. The past weeks had changed everything. Mason was no longer just a prisoner or a challenger. He had become a friend, a warrior, and maybe something more. Cerintha turned to him, her silver eyes soft and full of meaning. "You saved my people," she said quietly, "not just with your strength, but with your heart. Mason smiled. I didn't do it alone. You believed in me. She took his hand. Will you stay? For real this time? He thought about Earth, the blue planet spinning far away, his ship, his old life. But now, those things felt distant, almost like a dream. I'm ready to stay, Mason said. Not because I'm forced, but because I want to. Cerintha's smile grew wide. Then we will build a new future, together. They had many challenges ahead. The council still needed to be won over, old enemies needed peace or defeat, and the two worlds would need to learn from each other. But for the first time, Mason felt hope, not just for himself, but for both their peoples. The days that followed were filled with hard work and new bonds. Mason trained Varnaxi warriors in human tactics while learning their customs and language deeper. Cerintha worked to unite her council, showing them that strength came in many forms, not just power, but respect, trust, and courage. One evening, as the twin moons rose again, Mason and Cerintha walked in the palace gardens. This feels like the start of something great, Mason said. She nodded. It is, and you are part of it. Mason looked at the stars, thinking about how far he had come, from a prisoner to a hero, from a stranger to a partner. He squeezed Cerintha's hand. Whatever comes next, he said, we face it together. She smiled and leaned close, together. And in that moment, under alien moons and ancient stars, two worlds found a new beginning, built on courage, respect, and the unbreakable spirit of a human.